Good day, fine young folks of Joplin, Missouri. This is Mr. Franklin. Welcome back to English 1. Today we're going to be talking about email etiquette. As middle schoolers, I'm sure you sent emails, probably a handful to your teachers, friends, but in high school you're expected to send more emails. Teachers have a lot of students, and it's hard for us to keep track of just which student has which need, which students were absent, and as you get older, the necessity to send emails will only grow. So learning early how to send appropriate, formal, and purposeful emails is a wonderful skill to have. So we're going to go over some basics. I'm going to show you some examples of bad emails, and then I'm going to show you an example of a good email, and then you're going to have an opportunity to write an email of your own. So what makes a good email? Well, it's like any other form of communication. It really depends on the context. So if you're sending an email to Dr. Gilbreth, it should sound very different than the email that you would send to your best friend, than an email that you would send to your aunt or uncle, than an email you would send to a potential employer. Those are all going to sound different. And that's where it takes your discretion to know, should I be formal, informal? You need to think about that before you send the email. Well, what should every basic email have? It should have a clear subject line. I should know what's in the email before I read it, or what the email topic is before I read it. I get probably 100 emails a day, and if I'm getting emails from students without subject lines, I have no idea what's in those emails. It could be something that I need to handle immediately. It could be something that I can wait a little bit and handle later that night. I have no idea. And so for the sake of the person who is receiving the email, put a clear subject line. It needs to have a polite salutation. Dear Mr. Franklin. It doesn't have to be Dear Mr. Franklin. I'm perfectly fine if it just says Mr. Franklin. Some things that it shouldn't say, yo, bro, dude, those are informal salutations, and they shouldn't be included in a formal email. It should have a formal, polite, and direct language. I don't want it to say, my man, do this thing for me, yo. That's inappropriate language in an email, especially to a teacher. So it needs to be formal, polite, and direct. The key is you want the person who's receiving the email to want to do the thing that you're asking them to do. If you're rude or disrespectful in the email, they still might do the thing you're asking them to do, but they're not going to be happy about it. If you're polite to me in an email and say you need a grade adjusted, or you want to come in and ask about an assignment, I'm much more likely to, I'm always going to say, yes, please come in and talk to me about the grade. But I might do so begrudgingly instead of willingly, instead of happily. So polite. And finally, if you wouldn't say it to their face, don't say it in an email. We get this idea that when we're behind a computer screen, there's this sense of distance to the person that you're talking to, and maybe you'll say something over an email that you wouldn't say in person. Please don't do that. My recommendation would be, especially if you're upset about something, don't send that email. Instead, type it into a Google Doc. Wait 24 hours, and if you still feel the need to send the email, okay. But if not, delete that Google Doc. I've done it before where I've been upset about something, maybe something a colleague did or something, and I type it in a Google Doc instead. And the next day I'm like, you know what? I was overreacting, or I didn't really consider things from their perspective. And almost always you're going to end up deleting that Google Doc. So just remember that you're talking to another human being. Do so politely, formally, and respectfully. So I'm going to go over some bad emails, and these are all they're not actual emails that I've received. As you can see, I've sent this to myself, but they're examples of types of bad emails that I have seen. So this one here has no subject line. And it says, yo, I had soccer yesterday. Did I miss anything important? This email does a lot of stuff wrong and very little right. Yo, that is informal. I expect in all of your written communication the best possible grammar that you can have. You make an attempt. Because if you're sending me an email where things aren't capitalized, that gets underlined. That means you didn't spend enough time and energy to even go back and correct that. That takes all of a millisecond to correct. So if you're not correcting that, that shows to me, the recipient of this email, that I wasn't even important enough for you to correct minor mistakes. And it just looks better. So I gave this analogy the other day. Grammar is like clothing. It's okay to wear jeans and a t-shirt. It's okay to wear ratty sleep clothes in certain contexts. But in formal writing, you need to be wearing a suit. You need to have your best grammar showing. This is wearing sleep pants to a job interview. Don't do that. Don't wear sleep pants to a job interview. Also, big pet peeve of many teachers, not just myself, did I miss anything important? Yes, you missed my class. So that's important. It's important to me, and it should be important to you. And if it's not important to you, at least pretend it is in the email. Instead, it should say, what did I miss? But even that, knowing what we know about Mr. Franklin's class, even that wouldn't be the appropriate thing to ask, because we know if you go to Mr. Franklin's Canvas page for this class, there's an agenda that shows exactly what we did that day. So it shows that this student didn't even want to spend the time to go to the Canvas page. They're making me do the work for them. I want you to demonstrate that you're capable of doing your own work. I'm not going to do the work for you. I've already done that work by putting it on the Canvas page so that you can find it. Now, if the student had questions about what we did, maybe there were notes that they wanted, or there was an assignment that was due that they had a question about, then they could ask it in this email. But to ask, did I miss anything important? One, it's disrespectful. And I understand it doesn't mean to be disrespectful, but it is. Another issue with this is I had soccer yesterday. Nobody ever springs a soccer game on you. If you're an athlete or you're involved in clubs, after-school clubs, or there's a field trip or something that you're going to miss class, you know about that in advance. It's on you to find out in advance what we're going to do. Don't ask after the fact. That's part of the responsibility of being on a team. So, a lot wrong here. And again, none of these are like, if you do this, I will hate you forever. No, I'll be irritated in the moment, and I'll probably say next time I see you, hey, you might want to work on that email etiquette. Here's another example of a bad one. No subject. Josh, you put an 8 on my paper and a 3 in the grades. What the heck? Not cool. Fix it now. Teachers are humans. We make mistakes. We're not intending to make mistakes, but it sometimes does happen. I'm not a robot. So I have before put an 8 on a paper and a 3 in the grade book. And you know what? That's on me. But remember on the very first day of school, I said, I'm going to treat you like a human. You're going to treat me like a human. That's the goal. Recognizing that we make mistakes instead of being, not so nice about it. This student could have very well just said, hey, Mr. Franklin, I noticed that on my paper I had a 3 or I had an 8. In the grade book I had a 3. I was wondering what was going on with that and if there was an error. That would be enough. That recognizes, hey, maybe I made a mistake. It's not rude about it. It's not disrespectful about it. It allows me to fix the error. Also, and I've had this before, please don't do this, you can call me Mr. Franklin. I don't even like being called Mr. F because that has, I don't give out Fs. I mean, I do if you don't do your work, but Mr. Franklin. Don't call your teachers by their first names. Fix it now. Again, not great. No subject line. And again, I made the mistake here. I'm the one who made the error, but if it would be polite, just be polite. Building those positive relationships. Here's another one. There's no body to this email. It's just, why my grade bad in the subject line. There's nothing I can do with this email. I could respond and say, I don't know. Do you want to go over your grade? This isn't asking me to do anything. So another piece of advice about emailing, have an end outcome in mind. If you want me to go over your grade with you, then that's what you need to be asking me to do. If you want me to change a grade, if you want to ask about a specific assignment, you need to be direct in that. Why my grade bad? I don't know what the student want. Does the student want me to go through and see how many zeros they have? Does the student want to come talk to me? I'm not entirely sure what they want. So that's another thing. All right, here's another one. The subject line is sup. Doesn't do me any good. I have no idea what's in this email. Dude, I hate Zach. Move me to a new table. Again, this improper salutation. Please don't call me dude. I hate Zach. That's not a reason for me to move seats. Instead, give me a reason to want to move you seats. Present it in language that's intended for me. Know who your audience is. I'm not just going to move you because you don't like somebody. I will move a student if their learning is impacted. So if you're sitting next to somebody who's distracting you, if you're sitting next to somebody who's being rude to you and you would like to sit somewhere else because it would be easier for you to get your work done, that's why I would move you. If you don't like somebody, I'm sorry that you don't like them, but I'm not moving your seat because you don't like them. I'll move your seat if it's preventing you from working. So again, convince me that the action that you want me to take is the action that I should want to take. That's the goal. So again, it goes back to context. All right, here's a good email. I know because I wrote it. This student has missed a class and they would like some notes. This is their subject line. Missed class notes. Mr. Franklin, comma. You'll notice I put a space here. It's hard formatting wise with emails, so I always put a space. Sometimes if you put a tab, it doesn't show up and it looks a little funky, so I just put a space. This is, and they tell me their name, Student Who Cares, from your third hour English class. This is hugely helpful to me. I have 6 different class periods a day, and I have a lot of students in those classes. It's very difficult for me to remember specifically which class you're in the moment. I will recognize all of your names pretty quickly, but I'll have to think, oh crud, what hour is this student in? Instead, they've told me. And so I know exactly which grade book to go to if I need to. I'm sorry I wasn't able to attend class on 8/25. I had a stomach bug. I looked on Canvas and saw that we took notes over figurative language. Would it be possible to come in and ask you some questions over those notes, or to maybe get a copy of the slideshow so I can get caught up? Thank you, Student Who Cares. So a few things here. You don't need to apologize for having a stomach bug. I always err on the side of being more apologetic than less, but it could have just said, I had to miss your class because. It indicates to me that you didn't just ditch my class, which, again, I know sometimes you have to miss. That's okay. You don't need to necessarily specify why. It tells me what day they missed, so I know what day I'm looking at. It shows that they looked at Canvas. This student put in work before asking me to do work. They made an attempt to do this on their own, and they know what the notes are over. And then finally, they present 2 potential solutions. One of them would be them coming in, and one of them would be giving them the notes. Now, what this gives me, the teacher, it gives me some options. If I want to go over something specific with this student about the notes, I can ask them to come in, and they volunteered that. And again, it's on you if you miss class to make up that time. Or I can send them the slideshow. So if I think, well, this student can handle this slideshow, I don't need to go over it with them, I could just send them the slideshow. And then finally, a thank you and Student Who Cares. This right here is what I want all of your emails to all of your teachers from now on to look like. If they don't, that's on you. And you're going to start facing negative consequences for having improperly formatted emails. As Maya Angelou once said, know better, do better. You now know better than to send these garbage emails, so please don't send them anymore. Send the appropriate emails to the best of your ability to teachers. And I guarantee you that will make your lives easier and better. So what you're going to do to practice is you're going to write me a letter, an email. I don't want you to actually write me an email, though. I want you to do it in a Google Doc. Last year I had students actually send me emails, and they got mixed up with all my other emails, and it was very difficult for me to grade. So instead, I want you to open up a Google Doc, respond to one of these 3 scenarios. We saw examples of both bad and good emails dealing with them. And then down here, follow these specific instructions. And there is a Canvas assignment on our Canvas site for you to upload it. So again, I look forward to reading all of these. Welcome to Joplin High School, and I look forward to a wonderful year.